Hello, everybody, and welcome to another conscious healing episode with myself, Gary from Alternative Interactions, and
And I'm Joe from Alchemical Journey.
thank you very much, Joe. These chats are always going to be about healing, spiritual consciousness within the healing, and what we can do.
Hmm.
That's why Joe's here to help me. In the future, Joe and I may also talk about other things because certainly where she lives, there's an awful lot of Tartarian stuff around,
Yeah,
isn't there?
yeah, there is. Yeah.
So in the future we may branch out on that, but when we do these conscious healing sessions, they're always about health. Okay,
Hmm.
so today we're talking about grief.
Yeah,
I understand that there's many levels of grief,
yeah,
from losing or somebody passing over
yeah. That's right.
to the loss of a lifestyle, the loss of a relationship,
Yeah.
the loss of a job.
Hmm.
There's multiple levels and layers, a loss
Hmm.
of friendship, a loss of liberty. All these are grief. Um, all these affect us in a way that I think we need to look at today,
Yeah,
so that we can give ourselves some tools in the toolbox to try and help us move
yeah.
forward. So, Joe, grief. What does grief mean to you?
Um, Grief. I think I first experienced grief when I was about 17, when my dad lost his dad. And my dad was an only child. And I could see how ripped apart he was, like how brokenhearted he was, and how it really affected him. And I had like a thought of how can we be living in this life and there's so much sadness when somebody passes. And I think I was really taken aback by that. And grief has been my teacher. It really has, through my life, because I've lost many loved ones, and I'm sure people watching our film would really relate to that. And it's a very, it could be a really heavy, dark time, especially with a loved one, because they're no longer in our sight. Um, but also the conscious grieving of, for me, I was consciously, I thought I was grieving my father because I was, all what I said in the previous video about I got into my dark place. But when I actually came to address it, I was actually grieving my conscious mother, my living mother. So it was a real for me.
Yeah, yeah. And again, on the introduction, everybody, um, I should have mentioned pets and animals as well because they are just as important
Absolutely.
as
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
and things and places. So, again, I do apologize. I should have said that as well in the introduction.
Yeah.
Pets are the animals, those souls that join us for our journey of, um, that's fascinating, Joe. So, what do you mean by you were grieving your mother, or you realized you were grieving your mother? Because that, for me, takes a little bit of self-awareness or self-consciousness of a situation. And for me, grief-wise, I get into this, I've lost, some very good friends and grandparents and such. And
Yeah.
for me, the grief or the loss of that particular person, I wasn't or haven't been able to at that time. It's probably
Hmm.
different now because I was quite switched off when these events happened. I wasn't able to understand the feelings or what could have been driving these feelings. Now, it sounds to me like you really do understand that. So, could you explain that to me, please?
Yeah. Well, my grief sent me on a spiral of binge drinking and not giving a fuck. I went into that zone. I think a lot of us can do that. But from when the conscious grieving about my mum in life is, I've noticed through my work that it happens a lot with many people. So I was that bad that I went to see a bereavement counselor. And I was so lucky that I met somebody that we completely got on with. And she said, after a few times of sessions, she said that I don't even feel that you're grieving your dad. You're in perfect acceptance of he's not here, he's gone. Because my dad to me is I feel is my gatekeeper. So she said, I think who you're grieving is your mother. And what that interpreted to me was the lack of love from her, the lack of attention from her, that she didn't see me, she didn't cuddle me, and things like that. So I was consciously grieving. And I suppose because my dad had passed, I was hoping to have that motherly figure of like, I mean, I was an adult myself, I was 25, but still, your mum is a mum, a mother figure. So yeah, so then the whole process for me started to repair what this actually meant to me, of consciously grieving my mum who was still living and breathing, and having a relationship with her.
Yeah, that's
And
very, very interesting. In my personal life,
mm-hmm,
um, my mother was very, very lacking.
mm-hmm.
And I guess I, looking back at it now, you've just triggered something.
Okay,
I was consciously grieving the loss of my own mother, even though she's still alive today.
there we are.
Um, and I was not a very nice person, particularly towards women,
Okay,
um, for many, many years. And looking back on that, you know, it's a learning lesson that I had to go through.
yeah,
And it was a difficult lesson as well. And you just saying that triggered the fact that I was in grief. I was in grief for the loss of something or someone, even though they were still alive. And I think that's a key thing, isn't it?
yeah. It's massive because with the impact that has on us is quite big. It can be our driving force. Like you say, you were unkind. Like now looking back, you can see how you were unkind, but in that stage of your life, that was the way that you knew how to be. So we don't carry regret or anything like that, because that at that time of your life, that was what it was for you. So
Yeah,
the navigation of having like of the well, it blew my mind, to be fair, because then I really resented my mum for a while, because I just thought, my God, how can you be putting me through this? But as I worked through it, I then learned to have my mum on my terms. So, and to fulfill those parts of me that she was no longer giving me. I was the adult now, so I could give Jo what she was lacking. And then I was able to have a relationship with her on my terms. And I think the COVID thing, we always go back to it, but I think that was a real escalation of grief, conscious grieving, wasn't it, for us?
totally, totally. And that,
Because my life within that moment of seeing that man, the newsreader saying we all had to be jabbed, and me going, here we go, like actually standing up and going, here we go, like this is it. And I said to my husband, our life is not going to be the same again. And watching people you going through life doing their choices, I was consciously grieving my friends. I literally was. I felt such sadness that I had this beautiful community and everybody had chosen that path. And I think so many people can relate to that, because I was listening to a friend of yours, Gordon. He said the same. I think and I think that's why it's really important to talk about it, because it's not just when we lose somebody through death. This is life. This changed us completely, and we felt that sense of grief.
it's a trauma, isn't it? I just literally wrote it down. It's grief and trauma, I think, are very, very much linked together because somebody passing is traumatic. Your pet passing is traumatic.
Yeah,
A friendship disintegrating
yeah,
and them leaving you, or you leaving them because it it's no longer right. It's a very traumatic thing because you've spent so much time or invested energy into that relationship
yeah.
that it's suddenly missing. There's a hole, isn't there? There's a lack of.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see grief as much as the lack of and the readjustment of the person to the lack of. Because when you spoke about your mum, reminded me of relationships I have with some people, family
Yeah,
members or non-family members, where they are not available to me in the way that I would like them to be available. And I'm talking about emotionally here.
yeah.
So that vacuum, is that as much grief as the loss for you? How do you see that?
If I'm understanding the question right, my dad dying and leaving my life when he was 50 was, it gave me so much motivation, if you like, wrong word probably, to really live the best life. His death made me, obviously when I got used to the idea, he really gave me, I remember saying, I'm going on this life and I'm going to make the best of it from him. My mum's was an internal conflict. You know, we were internalizing, well, are we good enough? Why isn't she seeing this in me? Like, when, especially if you have your own children and you know how much you love them and you think, well, I never felt this from mine. So it was the internal conflict that's not good. Of then your self-worth, your confidence is all dropped because it's all sort of smashed out because you're not having that relationship in that type of grief area. I feel, if that is, yeah,
That makes sense because for me, one of my coping mechanisms was to put boundaries.
yeah.
And from the outside, somebody looking in would say that's quite an extreme boundary potentially that I put in with some people,
Mm-hmm.
some family members. But the toxicity of some circumstances or some people or some events means that you do really have to self-protect
Yeah.
as before you can move on to analyze and assess what lessons you've got from that. So the fact that you, from your father's passing, once you got that and analyzed that, it was a springboard into the, finding Joe almost, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, because the way it happened as well, the way the system handled it, the current system, that too was very questionable. That awakened me to actually, what the hell? What are we living in here? And for me, grief when somebody passes, it was such a privilege to have him in my life for 25 years. And that's how I see it. If it's a conscious grieving, it's like a grey old cloud that just follows you around. It's a different type of thing. And especially in the fact that like COVID, where it wasn't a participation, it was just put upon us. You know, it was put upon us and that was it. And in 2023, my nieces were killed in a car crash. The same, exactly, you could stamp it to my dad's exactly. And they were 17 and 21. And because of my experience with my dad's grief, conscious grieving, and the way that I manage myself and the relationship I've got with myself, I was able to, it was horrific for my brother and, my sister-in-law, their only children. And again, the way they were handled by the system, horrendous. No compassion, no empathy. They were just going through their emotions. But because in that situation, as heartbroken as I felt, and my heart blew into a million pieces, I made sure that I offered myself my own time in the morning before anybody even got up, so I could contain myself, have my grief, have my crying, do what I needed to do, so then I could be supportive. And even now, with Maddie and Libby dead and gone, and I can't see them with my eyes, they're my driving force. I was so privileged to be their auntie and for my brother and my sister-in-law to gift me those girls. And this is how I feel with grief. We can either allow it to consume us or we can allow it to Like that, it was a privilege to know them. I was their auntie for those amount of years, and I am living and breathing to make the best of this for them because that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Something you said, and I actually wrote this down before you said it,
Oh,
is okay to cry. That's what I
yeah,
wrote
yeah,
down.
yeah,
I think one of the big things that we have in this world these days is emotions. You've got to stamp your emotions down.
yeah.
You're not allowed to grieve the way we all need to grieve.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly for men, and I know the majority of my audience is female, you know,
Uh-huh.
but these amazing women that watch us, most of them have a partner, most of them have a man in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And for men, there's a stigmatism
Yeah,
on grief
yeah.
and on crying and emotional outbursts. And it's almost looked at as a shameful thing. And that is part of what the system has created, isn't it, Joe?
It has. Yeah, it has. I think, like you probably, Gary, we didn't cry much as kids if we had the relationships like we did with our parents. It was a lot of swallowing it in and just sort of trying to find our way through it. And the shame, if you're crying, you're weak. But I saw many men cry, especially at my niece's funeral. And I saw many men break down and open. It was like an embrace of everybody felt they had permission to allow. And even we had a charity event, and it was all for the girls. And I saw at the end, at the presentation, I saw men crying then. This is something that we all have in us. I was tying little ribbons around lorries because it was a lorry festival. And it probably took me nearly all day because every person I went to, every male, I'm in a truck festival. So these are all men mostly. They all told me a story of their loss. So for that 10 minutes, 5 minutes, however long I was with them, they had an expression. And men especially. There's nothing wrong with crying. It's an absolute pressure cooker if we don't.
And that's the other thing, isn't it? It's being able to express that grief to somebody who's open to listening to them
Yeah,
and giving them the space and the
yeah,
time to express that. Because I know that if we hold things inside us,
yeah.
it causes dis-ease, it
It
causes
does.
an imbalance,
Yeah,
and it can cause illness, you know. So before we go on to that so much, it's the giving somebody space to express themselves
yeah,
is as big a part of the healing journey as the grief journey, as in opening up. Can you give me some examples or some help? So, for instance, somebody I know is still grieving over something. It
okay.
could be the fact of the loss of their freedom still from the COVID era. It
Yeah.
could be a pet, or it could be anything.
Mm-hmm.
What pointers or tips could you give me to enable me to help them without being condescending, without pushing my own thoughts or needs onto that person to allow them the space to grieve?
Yeah, exactly that. Allow them space to grieve and listen. We've forgotten how to listen to each other. Like having this conversation, I'm in Turkey, you're in England. And I also know others, as we both do, that are quite isolated right now because it could have been from COVID, how we've just sort of drifted into our own corners. But listening, not judging, and just it's like having your hands out like that. So you're just doing this with the person. This alone, if somebody is expressing from their self while you're listening, as you brilliantly do, is they're going to find their own way. They're going to find their own way. From their voice is the answer. That one expression, because you've listened until the end of their sentence, is gold, is the gold. And I think why I'm a little awkward doing this is because I am so good at listening. I'm usually the listener, you know. So listening is it's a forgotten human. It's everybody wants to jump in. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Or they start, if I said to you, oh, Gary, I lost my nieces 3 years ago, you would say, well, I lost my dog yesterday, right? Nobody wants to listen. So of course we just, and this is when we get the disease because everybody's contained. If we just listened, it's a beautiful thing. And you know, we used to have big families, Gary, didn't we, with cousins, uncles, you know, and if your mum was a bit weird, you know, the uncle would say, oh, she's always been like that. So you always had an outlet. And now our families have so shrunk that we're trying to figure it out all the time by ourselves, which can turn us into a wrong one, a rotten one, a bit of a drinker, a smoker, a druggie, whatever, because nobody's listening.
Yeah. And substance abuse or self-abuse,
Yeah.
food as much as anything else.
Yeah.
We all have our crutches, and we all do smoking, whatever it is, and
Yeah.
some people, their crutches actually doing too much fitness,
Mm-hmm.
overdoing something,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
extremes of, okay. I'm sure if those people were given the opportunity to really express what's going on in their lives and,
Yeah.
and, and look at what is driving that and why they feel the lack. I mean, for an example, somebody keeps going to the gym and they're working out and they look amazing, yeah,
Yeah.
but they can't miss one day of the gym.
Yeah.
That's not a healthy balance. It's not healthy,
Mm-hmm.
and it becomes an extreme crutch almost. How would somebody who has a personality that is extreme in that respect, almost an addictive personality to hide or mask the grief, how would you advise or say to help somebody like that? Because obviously them expressing is a step forward, but are there
Yeah.
anything else or other little things or tips that you can give us to give these people some support? I know that's a
I think
difficult
for me
one.
it was what, sorry?
I know that's a difficult question, that one.
It is. For me, I sort of go there. I was a workaholic. That's how I did it. I worked flat out, because then I didn't have to think about anything. Um, I think if somebody is a fanatic about something, it sort of gives the game away. You can sort of almost understand from their actions, if you like. But what happens generally in the end is that if you say, wow, you work out a lot every day, God, that's amazing. You look fantastic. And then the crack appears. Do you know what I mean? They start to say, yeah, but God, I can't freaking sleep. Or, you start to have a conversation with people. And that's the beauty of communication. And I think that is, if you're that into something that it takes every day of your time and everything revolves around that, it's a bypass. And people might look at this and go, I actually love going to the gym every day. It does wonders for my mental health. And of course it does. But the driving force of that, and I don't want to critique anybody because everybody's doing we're doing our bestest in what we have, right? But I think when you bring yourself to the table, for me, I had to bring Joe to the table to then not be a workaholic. But you couldn't have told me that at the time. I was like, I'm really good at what I do, and that's the important thing. You have to not forget, abandon yourself for whatever it is you're becoming fanatical about. Like you just can't, because it can have a detrimental effect, or it will take you to a certain place and then you have to rewind, because you sort of, and I love the fact that people exercise and things like that. I'm not giving that a bad name, but on the example that we're talking about, I think especially now it's about, we have to be a little bit more self-aware about the truth of what we feel. Yeah, that's it. Like, how are we feeling? Like, I was talking to a lady before our call, and she was saying that she's a healing worker and she's got a shoulder and lower back. You know the lady too. And but and the way when I spoke with her, she knows that, yes, she needs to address this to be her absolute best, or to honor herself, to not put people forward, to not think that we can work work our magic on others when we are having a painful shoulder, things like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It comes into self-awareness a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I guess I'm kind of people run away from themselves and
Mm-hmm.
they deflect because they don't want to look inside. And that goes back to our first
Yeah.
program we did when we were talking about the importance of that self-love and worth,
Mm-hmm.
and again, these themes keep coming back because it is it's a strong thing that you need to get the bases right. And I say need to, that's the wrong kind of thing, but it's very beneficial to you to get the bases right to be able to move forward on grief. For me personally,
Yeah.
um, loss of lifestyle or 2020, the forced changes of
Yeah.
COVID.
Yeah.
Many of us lost friends.
Yeah.
Many of us did.
Many.
Some of us lost jobs.
Yeah.
Some of us lost a lifestyle or a way of being
Yeah.
that was, you know, people were in harmony. It was a different kind of issue. And that forced change, and it was a forced change,
Yeah.
and it is a grief. It's a grief, and something we need to be conscious of.
Mm-hmm.
There will be anger, frustration,
Yeah.
loneliness, and isolation that come out of all of this.
Yeah.
So for you, Joe, with the loss of the 2020, because we're all still affected by it, we still
Yeah.
are.
We
And
still are. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, how how would you say to me, who is on the, for instance, I'm frustrated, Joe.
Yeah.
I had a really good lifestyle before then, and now I don't. It's terrible. And this is just a scenario, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
How can you help me, Joe? Because I'm frustrated. What? Why?
Yeah.
Again, I'm expressing why, but the problem is it's an externalized force that's come into my life and
Yeah.
affected me, and
Yeah.
that force is still there pressing my butt. How can I deal with that? How can you help me, Joe?
Well, it's so true what you're saying. We literally had the rug pulled from under us, and our life was completely different within a minute, within a blink of an eye, within a waking morning. For me, I feel that frustration. I feel frustration. I feel my grief was for the people that went on a different path than me, but I was also really fucking angry with this above for even for putting this in my people, right? So I had this thing of like, and I guess my anger was, why isn't everybody else seeing that, and why are people going on that path? And the reality is, life is different. I've lost friends. I had 3 friends of 30 odd years gone. So that's a lot of history. That's a lot of my history, Gary. A lot of your history with your friends that just decide, or your brother. I've heard even truthers saying that, my brother doesn't talk to me anymore. And no matter how we sort of try, they just see us as conspiracy theorists at the end of the day. We're the ones wearing, saying all of this. So you had this anger that they were actually putting this on us, and this suppression and giving us lockdowns and things. And then you had the people that you thought you could talk, chew the fat with, no longer. So we are frustrated and we still are pissed off about it, because it wasn't like the world went dark and then got light again. This thing that they did is ongoing. This is still doing whatever it's doing and getting people to think whatever they're thinking, right? So it's massive. And I think we allow ourselves to be frustrated and angry. And then we create our new future and our today. We create the life we want because we've got no support from, and luckily I met you, you've got your crew, and we design now our future. Every day we wake up, we get knocked back, but we come back and we design our future. And
Yeah.
we make it great again. We do.
So we're talking about taking the grief of the loss, seeing it for what it is, understanding it, consciously grieving. This is conscious grieving. We
Yeah.
see it for what it is. We know we're frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's what can we do to change that feeling into something that is not going to be toxic to me,
Yeah.
that I can live with, that we can move and I can move as an individual forward with.
Absolutely.
And that is about taking steps in your own life to change your life how you want it and
Yeah.
saying, no, I'm not going to get somebody who was in a television screen
Yeah.
telling me how I'm going to live my life, you
That's
know?
right.
And in a way as well, it's the acceptance of the grief
Mm-hmm.
of this situation because it's a very difficult thing to accept your lifestyle being just dragged off in one day, everything's
Yeah.
changed. And, and that's the same with losing somebody. All of a sudden, 1 nanosecond,
Yeah.
something's taken away from you
Yeah.
without your permission and without, you know, and it's dealing with that as well, isn't it? So, how do you see that, Joe? The fact that things are taken away from us.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the loss of control that many people grieve as much as because I'm just thinking out loud here, the loss of control certainly would have caused a big frustration for many people.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that that then created a scenario, a ripple effect of the loneliness, isolation, lack of friendship, and the change of lifestyle. So, how do you see that rug pull? How can we deal with the rug pull?
Um, by you see, for me, it's remembering what I love, what I like, what what I'm here to be doing, and just fulfilling all of that desire and dream in me, and not allowing the fear of what they want to project onto us to crush that. And I just forgot to say, we haven't only got like the anger of them doing what they did and the people going on a different path. We've also got a lovely lot of people who are really fucking anxious because they've taken something and now want it out of their body. So we've got this healing going on with this, I work with all types. And the way that we deal with the rug being pulled is to keep living our dream and really it is that. But some of us maybe don't know what that is, but that's what taking notice of yourself does to you. It's amazing. We were born with the wisdom and the knowledge and the memory and the magic. And every day when I'm doing my practice, I'll call it, or I'm discovering something new. And I really don't want people to suffer. because I know what it's like to suffer. And on the other side of that is it can become beautiful again. It really can.
Yeah, and it can, because we are trained, programmed
Yeah.
to always look at the negative, the darkness. And there is always another side to the coin.
Yeah.
But the individual has the choice whether they want to look at it or not.
Yeah.
And this kind of comes into what you said about the regret. Uh, some people had a medical procedure that they regret,
Yeah.
and they really do regret it.
Yeah.
Many people will regret the actions they put upon other people.
Hmm.
And this is a trauma of the grief that's connected to it. But we also, it's the strength and the inner courage,
Yeah.
you know, to say we were wrong and apologize or not. It, how can I put this? For me, 2020 was a massive learning experience.
Yeah.
It was. And without 2020, I would not have been so connected spiritually to my higher self, to source.
Yeah.
It was a kick up the arse that I needed. But at the time, with the isolation, loneliness, frustration, the loss of everything going on, and the pressure that we felt, and the regret of not being able to help more people, it was a massive thing.
Yeah.
I think over the time, because time is a great healer as well, isn't it, Joe? I
Yeah.
mean, over this period of time, I think it's given us all an opportunity to grow. So we've
Yeah.
all been given an opportunity to develop and grow and look at this if we wanted to. Some people, many people are now beginning to wake. We have a huge consciousness shift at the moment. A lot
Yeah.
of people are starting to wake up
Yeah.
or get it or really realize something's totally wrong.
Yeah.
They're going to be in grief for their old understandings in life and thoughts as well. And it's going to make people very unbalanced for a while. Supporting this, Joe, what do you feel is a really good way to support people that are now feeling what we felt in 2020? Because and for us that still feel this in 20, what sort of, what would you say would be, I mean, like for me, obviously it's going out into nature or doing things you love, but how would you support yourself and those around you without overwhelming them as they go through this period?
I think people are going to naturally gravitate back towards us. I really do. I feel that for me, like the feedback I had from our first video was tremendous from people. Something that a lot of people that do sort of know me would never have expected me to come live and to speak. But yeah, it's going back, 1980, if we remember that, you know what I mean? It was so much more earthy, or my childhood, and it's doing that again. It's just coming out of that. I hate the word control, but the control that they had over us. I watch, I mean, I might be jumping to a different conclusion, but there's one show I love to watch on the telly, on the British telly, and that's Car SOS. I am a petrol head. I love it. So I watch it. I can get it here, so I watch it. But your adverts and your television, I have never seen anything like it. It's either get your will plan, all the charities and all these celebrities recommend these charities. It's so dark and doom and gloom, right? It's everywhere, Gary. This doom is everywhere. So that was just something that came through because you sit down to relax and you've got it in your face if people are still watching the telly. If it's to, and I think if people, just by communicating, people then, if we're wrong, we're apologize, and but we can share stories and we can then help whoever comes into our I will never, we talk COVID a lot and how people went one way and another. There's no, I don't want it to be a divide, because the ones that regret it, the ones that are awake from it, we're all here for a purpose to make it better. I feel, I really do, and we can, and it's, yeah, just to express how you feel. And I think the ones that they thought were crazy, they're going to see for themselves, if that makes sense.
It
Because
does.
to me, it just feels like we need to just go back to, yeah, like you say, the natures, and doing things away from the screens and just finding our way, all of us.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. And one thing I would say to everybody is we've gone through this grief process, even if you
Yeah,
realize it or not. We really
yeah,
have. And we've kind of come out the other end almost, you know. And although we still have frustrations or whatever, we're mature enough from this journey over the time to have moved forward into a different position, a different frequency almost.
yeah, we have.
And we're in an amazing position now.
Yeah,
And that position is that we are grounded and we're here to help the next wave of people in a conscious way,
mm-hmm.
understanding what they're going through because we've gone through it.
Yeah,
And with empathy and love and forgiveness,
yeah,
shining our light onto everybody around us is the way forward. And I think we're going to get a big wave of people coming through that need this support. And I'm certain that we've moved past the I told you so, because
oh
that
yeah.
doesn't help anybody.
No, and I have never ever done that. But also, what we've got, which is probably another show in itself, we've got a layer of people who are with their one, their millions of followers, who were dragging these people into their courses and into their spiritual awakenings and the new age. We've got all of that, you see, Gary, and then that is all dropping away slowly in my eyes. So then all these people that have invested in their healing and of their, trying to fix themselves, this is all coming crashing down. And so, people have invested thousands in some of these people, re-quoting them and doing all the rest of it. But they've forgotten about the wise ones. They've forgotten about the wise ones, the wisdom, because they don't want to. That's a big divide as well. They'd rather Google it on Dr. Google than have a conversation with somebody that's experienced it. That's the difference. That's what I find.
Yeah,
And we have to pull that back, because I'm it, you're it, they're it, we're all it,
yeah.
And for me, talking like this, it's like that picture behind you. I'm pulling the curtain back. I am pulling the curtain back. Whether I touch one person, that's beautiful.
And the person or people that Joe's referring to are people like Deepak Chopra and such like. Okay, just for clarification, um, it's very clear that some of these new age gurus were really not, and nobody should be on a pedestal. Certainly not
Nobody.
me.
No.
Nobody, Joe. Nobody. We're all equal,
Yeah.
and all we want to do is try and help and express from our experience a way of helping or supporting the grief and the conscious grieving that we all have and others
Yeah.
will have, and being there to open and listen and give
Yeah.
people space and time to do so,
Yeah.
being supportive in the grief of the individuals. Now, this is another one as well, isn't it? Very much so. Before we finish, because I'm aware of the time.
Yeah, okay.
Everybody grieves in an individual way,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
somebody who's lost somebody who carries on regardless, and we think, oh my God, they've just lost somebody, and look, they haven't stopped. They haven't. How weird. It's not. It's individual. We're all individuals. We learn
100%.
individually. Everything is individual, isn't it, Joe?
Yeah, 100%. Because um, when I lost my nieces, I didn't take a client for years. Well, it's been what, 2023 to 23 years. Only just. I would never think that I could offer somebody help when I was broken. So I went into my own space and really took care of myself. And then, what did this mean to me? I got so many questions about that. We could go on that, on like the spiritual and the communication I have with the girls, things like that. But everybody does it different. You lost your mother, I lost my mother, say, but your experience is completely different to mine. But we could together, we could help each other. Everybody is different. I would never, but what I want to say is, when you lose your loved one, the appreciation that you even knew them, the appreciation that you had them in your life for that amount of time, that for me is a driving force. Because I do believe, if you ask me, I do believe that we will be reunited. And that's another story. That's another show,
Yeah,
perhaps,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. It's gratitude, isn't it? I mean, I'm in gratitude for 2020. And that sounds crazy, but I
No,
really
no.
am in
Yeah.
gratitude. I'm in gratitude that it happened because certain things, certain illusions fell from my eyes,
Yes.
and the experience was toxic for some, enlightening for others,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And this is the gambit, this is the thing, this is a big spectrum of stuff.
Yeah.
But I am in gratitude for it happening. I met, because of this, some very, very nice people.
Yeah.
I connected to some very nice people in 2020, 2021. Some of them are still my friends today. Some
Brilliant.
have not. Some have moved on because it was the experience. But I'm in gratitude for every single one of those people I met who
Yeah.
touched my life
Yeah.
and made me think
Yeah.
about me and my relationship to all of this and the grief and the non-grief of these situations. Any last words, Joe, for this, please?
Yeah. If I when I say that my dad's death when he was 50, I was 25, was the making of me. Because without him going and putting me through that, and my mother and the conscious grieving of her, I would never be here right now doing, and in this really peaceful state with myself. And I have learned, I always knew I had something about me, but these gifts came more to light through that process. So my dad dying was the making of me, you know?
And I think that's something, from grief comes opportunity.
Yeah.
It's a bit like the phoenix, from
Yeah.
the ashes.
Yes.
And we have the opportunity. Everybody has that opportunity to grow like the phoenix from the ashes from events that happen to us.
Yes.
The only person who can make that decision is you.
Yeah. Hence why you're sat there and I'm sat here, because that event brought us to this. So, and it's with my nieces, we have now got a foundation in their name. We're doing lots of events. We're giving back to local schools. This is a driving force for their parents, as their auntie, as all the other aunties. And yeah, I'm so grateful to be breathing, to be able to do it, and to be able to witness it, and to be here and to march forward with you and with whoever's coming.
Yeah. So remember, we're in control and we
Yeah.
really can decide
Yeah.
what we want to do. And if someone wants to stay in that grief situation and that's what they choose to do,
Yeah, that's
so
right.
we have to accept that as well. We
Yeah,
have to accept their individual choices.
we do. We definitely do. But for me, it wasn't. This was my choice, and each day it's empowering. Yeah.
That's a really positive message to finish on. So again, thank you very much, everybody. Please like, share, and subscribe to Joe of the
Thank you.
Alchemical Journey,
Mhm.
uh, and myself, obviously.
Yes.
Um, we read all your comments,
Yes.
and we respond to all your comments, and we really do. From comments that come from this, Joe may do individual shows herself.
Yeah.
So from the comments that come from this, if there's something that Joe wants to expand on,
Mm-hmm.
so worth checking out Joe or certainly subscribing to Joe because
Thank
Joe
you.
will build on some of these concepts and will
Yeah.
respond. I won't be because obviously Joe Joe's the specialist and will put the traffic towards those that are able to help more than I can. So, but hopefully this has been helpful to everybody.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. So with that, everybody, love, light, and blessings. I'll say goodbye and
Thank you so much, everybody. Goodbye, Gary. Thank you so much.
bye, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye bye.